Welcome to Echoes of Ihsan, our podcast where we take deep dives into Islamic traditions. Today we're focusing on a fascinating topic, the practice of asking for rain.
Okay.
And our primary source for this deep dive is going to be the Muwatta Imam Malik, specifically Book 13.
Okay.
And Book 13 is called Asking for Rain. It's really amazing to me, like how a practice that seems so simple can actually be so profound. In terms of how people related to nature and the divine.
Absolutely. I think this book is really a window into a worldview where faith and the natural world were really just, deeply intertwined.
Okay, so let's jump right in.
Sure.
The book starts off with a pretty detailed description of how to perform the rain prayer. Right?
Yes. So if you look at Book 13, number 13.1.1, it lays out the steps that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would take when leading this prayer.
Okay.
So it starts with 2 units of prayer, which are called rakas, which are basically like a cycle of movements and recitations that form the foundation of Islamic prayer. And then the imam, who's the leader of the prayer, delivers a sermon, which is known as the khutbah, while facing the qibla, the direction of Mecca.
So it's interesting that there's this combination of physical actions like the rakas and the direction of prayer and then the spoken word of the khutbah. It seems like there's a multi-sensory element to this prayer.
Absolutely. And I think engaging different senses can really deepen the experience of prayer and make it more impactful for those participating.
Right.
It's not just about listening or reciting, but embodying the act of supplication through movement and direction.
Now, this is where it gets really intriguing for me.
Yep.
The book mentions this symbolic act of turning the cloak inside out. Done by both the imam and the congregation. It's such a vivid image, almost like a physical manifestation of their inner state.
You've hit on something really important there. So while the text doesn't explicitly state the reason behind this act, a lot of scholars see it as as this powerful expression of humility and dependence on God. So imagine the entire community turning their cloaks inside out. Right? It's almost like a visual representation of turning oneself inside out, exposing their vulnerability and need before God.
It's like saying, we've done what we can, but ultimately we're reliant on your mercy.
Exactly. It's a powerful symbol of surrendering to a higher power and acknowledging that, human efforts alone are not enough.
And this act of turning the cloak, it happens during a communal prayer, right?
That's right. And this highlights the collective nature of the prayer, right? So the entire community comes together, acknowledging their shared need for rain and their dependence on God's mercy. And it's a reminder that they're all in this together, facing this challenge as one ummah, one community.
It's fascinating how this single act can encapsulate so much.
Yeah.
Humility, dependence on God, and the importance of community.
And we see these themes echoed throughout the book as we explore the supplications and the stories that are associated with this practice.
Okay, so let's delve into those supplications.
Okay.
The book specifically mentions a prayer from the Prophet, peace be upon him, in Book 13, number 13.2.2. It goes, "O Allah, give water to your slaves and your animals, and spread your mercy and give life to your dead land."
Such powerful words, right? So you'll notice how the supplication directly addresses God as the ultimate provider.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that only He can bring life to barren lands, and it's not just about humans benefiting from the rain, but animals too, right?
Right.
So there's this beautiful recognition of the interconnectedness of all creation.
That interconnectedness, it's something that resonates, so deeply with modern concerns about the environment and sustainability.
Absolutely. This ancient practice speaks to a wisdom that I think we've kind of lost touch with. The understanding that water is not just a resource. It's a gift. It's a blessing from a higher power. And it's a perspective that could be incredibly valuable as we face increasing challenges of drought and water scarcity around the world.
It's almost like this practice is urging us to move beyond seeing water as simply H2O and recognize its deeper significance, its power to sustain life and connect us all.
Exactly. And this idea of recognizing our dependence on something greater than ourselves, I think, is central to understanding this practice of asking for rain.
The book doesn't just outline the rituals and the supplications. It also includes some pretty compelling anecdotes about prayers being answered.
Right. So in book 13, number 13.2.3, there's this story of a man approaching the prophet, peace be upon him, in a state of utter desperation. And he describes how their animals are dying and their camels are like too weak to travel.
Hmm.
And he's basically begging the prophet to pray for rain.
Wow.
And what's amazing is that after the prophet prays, it rains for an entire week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's such a powerful story, especially in the context of a community that was so deeply reliant on rain for survival.
Absolutely. And it really highlights the belief that, sincere prayer, especially from someone like the prophet, peace be upon him, can have a tangible impact on the physical world.
Right.
And it shows deep faith in the power of supplication to bring about change.
We also talked about the story where the prophet, peace be upon him, corrects those who attributed rain to the stars.
Hmm.
Can you elaborate on the broader context of that teaching? Like, why was it so important to emphasize that God alone controls the rain?
Yeah, so that teaching was really crucial in solidifying this core Islamic belief in Tawhid,
Okay.
the oneness of God.
Okay.
You see, before Islam, many Arab tribes held beliefs that attributed power to celestial bodies or natural forces.
Uh-huh.
But by emphasizing that God alone controls the rain, the prophet, peace be upon him, was really dispelling these remnants of, pre-Islamic beliefs
Right.
and affirming God's absolute sovereignty.
So it was about drawing a clear line, establishing that that ultimate power rests with God and not with any created thing.
Exactly. And this concept of tawhid is central to understanding, the Islamic worldview.
Right.
It's about recognizing that God is the sole creator, sustainer, and provider, and that all power and authority ultimately flows from him.
Now, earlier we talked about the symbolism of turning the cloak inside out during the rain prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, are there any other symbolic acts or gestures associated with this practice?
Yeah. So, for instance, it was customary for people to bring their young children and even their animals to the prayer ground.
Wow.
So imagine, families gathering, bringing their, most vulnerable members, both human and animal, to stand together in supplication.
Yeah.
It was like this powerful visual reminder of their collective need for God's mercy and their shared dependence on rain for sustenance.
It's like a living tapestry.
Yeah.
Representing the entire community, united in their vulnerability and their hope.
Exactly. And it underscores this idea that the practice of asking for rain wasn't just about, fulfilling an immediate need for water. It was about, strengthening social bonds, fostering a sense of, shared vulnerability and dependence on God, and nurturing, a collective responsibility for the well-being of the community as a whole.
It seems like there's a profound ecological consciousness embedded within this tradition. The way it portrays rain and the community's relationship with it suggests a deep respect for the balance of nature.
You're absolutely right. The texts we're exploring, they reveal a profound awareness of the interconnectedness between human actions and the natural world. So rain is seen as this precious gift, a blessing from God, but also something that can be destructive if it's excessive or scarce.
Right.
And this understanding resonates deeply with our own times as we face the consequences of climate change and environmental degradation.
Now, you mentioned that the Muwatta Imam Malik doesn't explicitly explain the reason for turning the cloak inside out.
Right.
I was curious, are there any other aspects of the rain prayer ritual that are open to interpretation?
Certainly. So while the text provides clear instructions on the outward form of the prayer, it does leave some room for individual contemplation and spiritual understanding. So take, for instance, the act of facing the Qibla, the direction of Mecca, during the prayer.
Yeah.
So on a practical level, it unifies the direction of prayer for Muslims worldwide. But on a deeper level, it can be seen as symbolizing the turning of one's heart towards God,
Right.
seeking His guidance, mercy, and connection.
So the rituals provide a framework, but the inner experience of the prayer is ultimately up to the individual.
Exactly, and this balance between outward form and inner meaning is a hallmark of Islamic spirituality.
Uh-huh.
Allows for a personalized connection with the divine, while fostering a sense of communal unity and shared practice.
It's like the ritual provides the container, but each individual fills it with their own intention and understanding.
That's a beautiful analogy,
Yeah.
and it really highlights the dynamic nature of Islamic tradition. It's not just a static set of rules, but a living, breathing practice that adapts and evolves while remaining rooted in its core principles.
This conversation has been so enlightening. It's amazing how something as familiar as rain can unlock such deep spiritual and cultural significance. As we move towards the final part of our deep dive, what key takeaways would you say we've gleaned so far from our exploration of the Islamic practice of asking for rain?
Well, first and foremost, I think it really highlights the importance of recognizing our dependence on God for sustenance. Rain, like all other forms of provision, is ultimately a gift from the divine. Secondly, I think it underscores the power of community and collective action. So the rain prayer wasn't a solitary pursuit. It was a communal gathering, a shared expression of need and hope, and it reminded people that they were all in this together. Facing the challenges of drought or excessive rain as one ummah, one community.
Right.
And finally, I think it reveals this deep ecological consciousness, a recognition of the delicate balance of nature and the impact of human actions on the environment. And these insights, I think, feel incredibly relevant today as we face global challenges related to climate change, water scarcity, and our relationship with the natural world.
It sounds like these echoes from the past are offering, valuable wisdom for navigating the present and the future.
Oh, absolutely.
But before we wrap up this part of our conversation, are there any other aspects of this practice that you'd like to touch upon before we move on to the final part of our deep dive?
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that the Muwatta Imam Malik is just one source, of Islamic teachings on this topic.
Right.
So while it's a highly respected and authoritative text, there are other hadith collections and legal texts that offer different perspectives and details. So it's important to remember that our exploration today is based on on a specific lens, and further study might reveal even more nuances and insights.
That's a good reminder that even within a single tradition, there can be a diversity of opinions and interpretations.
Absolutely.
It makes me think that perhaps the most important takeaway from our exploration isn't necessarily the specific details of the rituals, but rather the underlying spirit of humility, gratitude, and dependence on something greater than ourselves.
Absolutely.
But I'm eager to continue this journey and see what other discoveries await us in the final part of our deep dive. We'll be back shortly to explore those final reflections and connect these ancient teachings to the challenges we face in our modern world.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Islamic practice of asking for rain. As we, journey further into the Muwatta Imam Malik, Book 13,
Right.
I think you'll find it fascinating how these ancient traditions can really illuminate our understanding of the human relationship with nature and the divine.
It's incredible how something as seemingly simple as praying for rain can open up these deep wells of wisdom and offer insights that feel so relevant even today.
You're right, and as we delve deeper, we encounter narratives that not only describe the rituals, but also reveal the lived experiences and beliefs of the early Muslim community.
You know, speaking of those narratives, we touched upon a couple of intriguing stories earlier.
Yeah.
One where the prophet, peace be upon him, prays for rain and it pours for an entire week, and another where he prays to divert excessive rain.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Do these stories hold any special significance within Islamic tradition?
They absolutely do. These stories are often cited as examples of the prophet's spiritual authority and his deep understanding of the delicate balance of nature.
Okay.
So they underscore this this belief that sincere prayer aligned with God's will can have a profound impact on the physical world. So the story of the week-long rain emphasizes the power of supplication,
Right.
while the story of diverting excessive rain highlights the importance of seeking balance and recognizing that too much of a good thing can be just as detrimental as too little.
So these stories weren't just anecdotal, but served as practical illustrations of key Islamic beliefs.
Exactly. They made these abstract concepts more relatable and memorable.
Right.
And you'll find that these stories continue to be shared and studied by Muslims around the world today, offering guidance and inspiration across generations.
We also discussed a story where the prophet, peace be upon him, corrects those who attributed rain to the stars. Can you elaborate on the broader context of that teaching? Like, why was it so important to emphasize that God alone controls the rain?
Yeah, so that teaching was absolutely crucial, in solidifying this core Islamic belief in Tawhid,
Right.
the oneness of God. See, before Islam, many Arab tribes held beliefs that attributed power to celestial bodies or natural forces. But by emphasizing that God alone controls the rain, the Prophet, peace be upon him, was really dispelling these remnants of pre-Islamic beliefs and affirming God's absolute sovereignty.
So it was about drawing a clear line, establishing that ultimate power rests with God and not with any created thing.
Exactly, and this concept of Tawhid is central to understanding the Islamic worldview. It's about recognizing that God is the sole creator, sustainer, and provider, and that all power and authority ultimately flows from him.
Now, earlier we talked about the symbolism of turning the cloak inside out during the rain prayer. I was wondering, are there any other symbolic acts or gestures associated with this practice?
Yeah. So, for instance, it was customary for people to bring their young children and even their animals to the prayer ground.
Wow.
So imagine, families gathering, bringing their most vulnerable members, both human and animal, to stand together in supplication.
Yeah.
And it was like this powerful visual reminder of their collective need for God's mercy and their shared dependence on rain for sustenance.
It's like a living tapestry.
Yeah.
Representing the entire community, united in their vulnerability and their hope.
Exactly. And it underscores this idea that the practice of asking for rain wasn't just about, fulfilling an immediate need for water.
Right.
It was about strengthening social bonds, fostering a sense of, shared vulnerability and dependence on God, and nurturing a collective responsibility for the well-being of the community as a whole.
It seems like there's a profound ecological consciousness embedded within this tradition. The way it portrays rain and the community's relationship with it suggests a deep respect for the balance of nature.
You're absolutely right. The texts we're exploring, they reveal this profound awareness of the interconnectedness between human actions and the natural world. So rain is seen as this a precious gift, blessing from God,
Right.
but also something that can be, destructive if it's excessive or scarce.
Right.
And this understanding resonates deeply with our own times as we face the consequences of climate change and environmental degradation.
Now, you mentioned that the Muwatta Imam Malik doesn't um, explicitly explain the reason for turning the cloak inside out.
Right.
I was curious. Are there any other aspects of the rain prayer ritual that are open to interpretation?
Certainly. So while the text provides clear instructions on the outward form of the prayer, um, it does leave some room for individual contemplation and spiritual understanding. So
Okay.
take, for instance, the act of facing the Qibla, the direction of Mecca, during the prayer.
Right.
So on a practical level, it unifies the direction of prayer for Muslims worldwide.
Hmm.
But on a deeper level, it can be seen as symbolizing the turning of one's heart
Yeah.
towards God,
Right.
seeking His guidance, mercy, and connection.
So the rituals provide a framework, but the inner experience of the prayer is ultimately up to the individual.
Exactly. And this balance between outward form and inner meaning is a hallmark of Islamic spirituality.
Mhm.
It allows for a personalized connection with the divine, while fostering a sense of communal unity and shared practice.
It's like the ritual provides the container, but each individual fills it with their own uh, intention and understanding.
That's a beautiful analogy, and
Yeah.
it really highlights the dynamic nature of Islamic tradition. It's not just a static set of rules, but a living, breathing practice
Yeah.
that adapts and evolves, while remaining rooted in its core principles.
This conversation's been so enlightening.
Mm,
It's amazing how something as familiar as rain can unlock such deep spiritual and cultural significance.
absolutely.
As we move towards the final part of our deep dive,
Hmm.
what key takeaways would you say we've gleaned so far from our exploration of the Islamic practice of asking for rain?
Well, first and foremost, I think it really highlights the importance of recognizing our dependence on God for sustenance.
Hmm.
Rain, like all other forms of provision, is ultimately a gift from the divine.
Right.
Secondly, I think it underscores the power of community and collective action.
Hmm.
So the rain prayer wasn't a solitary pursuit. It was a communal gathering, a shared expression of need and hope,
Mm.
and it reminded people that they were all in this together. Facing the challenges of drought or excessive rain
Mm.
as one ummah, one community.
Right.
And finally, I think it reveals this deep ecological consciousness,
Yeah.
a recognition of the delicate balance of nature and the impact of human actions on the environment.
Right.
And these insights, I think, feel incredibly relevant today as we face global challenges related to climate change, water scarcity, and our relationship with the natural world.
It sounds like these echoes from the past are offering valuable wisdom for navigating the present and the future.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up this part of our conversation,
Hmm.
are there any other aspects of this practice that you'd like to touch upon before we move on to the final part of our deep dive?
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that the Muwatta Imam Malik is just one source of Islamic teachings on this topic. So
Okay.
while it's a highly respected and authoritative text, there are other hadith collections and legal texts that offer different perspectives and details.
Yeah.
So it's important to remember that our exploration today is based on a specific lens, and
Mhm.
and further study might reveal even more nuances and insights.
That's a good reminder that even within a single tradition, there can be a diversity of opinions and interpretations.
Absolutely.
It makes me think that perhaps the most important takeaway from our exploration isn't necessarily the specific details of the rituals,
Hmm.
but rather the underlying spirit of humility, gratitude, and dependence on something greater than ourselves.
Absolutely.
But I'm eager to continue this journey and see what other discoveries await us in the final part of our deep dive.
Mm.
We'll be back shortly to explore those final reflections and connect these ancient teachings to the challenges we face in our modern world.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Islamic practice of asking for rain. It's amazing how much we've uncovered already. from the specific rituals to the profound theological and ecological ideas woven into this tradition.
It has been quite a journey.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up our exploration, I think it's crucial to shift our focus to the broader implications of this practice. How can these ancient teachings speak to our modern world and the challenges we face today? That's a really important question. We live in a world where technology has in some ways distanced us from our dependence on nature. We turn on the tap and water flows effortlessly. But at the same time, globally, we're facing unprecedented challenges related to water scarcity, drought, and climate change.
You've hit the nail on the head. I think that's where the wisdom embedded in these traditions becomes particularly relevant.
Hmm.
The Islamic practice of asking for rain wasn't simply about performing a ritual. It was about cultivating a mindset, a way of relating to nature and the divine that could inform every aspect of life.
So what are some of the core elements of that mindset that we can draw upon today? How can these ancient teachings help us navigate the complex environmental challenges of our times?
Well, I think the most fundamental shift is recognizing that water is a precious gift, not a given. The act of praying for rain was a constant reminder of that dependence. It fostered a sense of gratitude and responsibility toward this vital resource.
It's like a built-in mechanism for promoting water conservation. Instead of taking it for granted, you're constantly reminded of its value and the need to use it wisely.
Exactly. And then there's the emphasis on community and collective action. The rain prayer wasn't a solitary act, it was a communal gathering, a shared expression of need and hope. It reminded people that they were all in this together, facing the challenges of drought or excessive rain as one ummah, one community.
That sense of shared responsibility seems crucial, especially when tackling large-scale environmental issues like climate change. We can't address these challenges in isolation.
Absolutely. We need to move beyond individualistic solutions and recognize that our actions impact not just ourselves, but entire ecosystems and future generations.
Mhm.
These ancient practices offer a model for collective action, reminding us that we're all interconnected and that our well-being is tied to the well-being of the planet.
So these ancient practices offer a framework for thinking about our relationship with water in a more holistic and interconnected way.
Yeah.
But they also touch upon something deeper, something beyond just the physicality of water.
You're right. They point to a spiritual dimension to conservation, a recognition that our relationship with nature isn't just about utility or resource management. It's also about awe, gratitude, and a sense of the sacred.
It's like these traditions are inviting us to rediscover a sense of reverence for the natural world. Instead of seeing it simply as something to be exploited or controlled, we're encouraged to approach it with humility and respect.
Precisely. And I think that shift in perspective is essential if we're going to address the complex environmental challenges we face. We need to move beyond a purely utilitarian view of nature and recognize its intrinsic value, its power to inspire wonder and connect us to something larger than ourselves.
Now, we've been focusing specifically on the Islamic tradition, but I imagine there are similar practices or beliefs around rain in other cultures as well.
Oh, absolutely. Rain has held profound symbolic and spiritual significance in cultures around the world throughout history. From ancient rain dances to modern-day ceremonies, humans have always sought ways to connect with the forces of nature that govern the life-giving rain.
It's a reminder that despite our technological advancements, we're still deeply connected to the natural world and its rhythms. We still depend on rain for our survival, and we still feel a sense of awe and wonder when we witness its power.
And I think those connections run deeper than we often acknowledge in our modern world. By exploring these diverse cultural expressions, by listening to the stories and wisdom embedded in these traditions, we can rediscover a sense of reverence for the natural world and a renewed commitment to its care.
So as we conclude our deep dive into the rituals of rain, what's the one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to ponder? What's the seed of wisdom you hope they'll carry with them from this exploration?
I think the most valuable lesson we can glean from these traditions is the power of mindful awareness. The act of praying for rain wasn't just about asking for something. It was about paying attention, acknowledging our dependence on something greater than ourselves, and cultivating a deep sense of gratitude for this essential element of life. Perhaps if we could all bring that level of awareness to our own relationship with water and the natural world, we might just find the collective wisdom we need to navigate the challenges of our times.
That's a beautiful and thought-provoking note to end on. It reminds us that the answers we seek aren't always found in grand pronouncements, but in the quiet wisdom of ancient practices whispering secrets across time.
Indeed. And with that, we invite you, our listeners, to continue this exploration. What other traditions or beliefs around rain have you encountered in your own journeys? How do these resonate with your own experiences and understanding of the natural world? We encourage you to delve deeper, to listen to the echoes of wisdom that surround us, and to share your own insights and reflections as we collectively seek a path towards a more sustainable and harmonious future.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the rituals of rain. May this exploration inspire a renewed sense of wonder, gratitude, and responsibility for the precious gift of water and the delicate balance of our planet. Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep listening to the echoes of wisdom that can guide us towards a brighter future.